Am I the antagonist for possibly overstepping by making suggestions my sibling didn't ask for? My sister lost her first husband when their daughter was 7 months old. She met her second husband almost 2 years after her first husband died. They dated for a little over a year before moving in together and getting married at the courthouse. She was so much happier, she was looking forward to their future again, and she changed so much before our very eyes. It was amazing to see her happy again, but it didn't really last. Her husband's children were old enough to remember their mom and old enough to not blend as seamlessly with everyone. My sister wanted siblings for her daughter. She wanted a true family for her, but she did not get that. Her husband adores my niece with all his heart, but his kids are indifferent and lean more negative in their indifference. They have expressed they are not happy their dad remarried. They have also expressed that my sister and niece will never be people they accept as family, and they don't want to work on this. My sister and her husband and his kids went to family therapy. It's been 4 years since they got married and nothing has changed. They are no closer, and my sister has become more depressed about the indifference. She has vented to me many times in the last 2 years about the sadness she feels because her stepkids don't want to even be friends with her daughter, and how her daughter looks at them as her big siblings, but they have expressed they don't return those feelings. She said it's not what she wanted, and it upsets her daughter when the other kids in the house don't even talk to her the majority of the time. I have always listened. She has mentioned that the therapist has expressed on more than one occasion that the kids can't be forced to love my niece, and that they might never be more interested than they currently are. They can try to encourage it without force and make sure the home is welcoming and inclusive. But feelings can't be forced or demanded. My sister has told me she hates that and she feels like she failed my niece. I have reassured her before she hasn't, but she said she couldn't give her them as siblings. She was in a particularly upset state a few days ago, and she was venting, and so I may have overstepped, and I asked her why she didn't end her marriage if the whole thing was making her this upset. I told her that's not to say she needs to, but she doesn't seem happy, and maybe the two of them would do better with just the two of them for a while. My sister freaked out and told me I couldn't expect her to do that, and why was it my place? I tried to apologize, but she didn't want to hear it. Am I the asshole? Your concern for your sister's well-being is evident, and offering a suggestion from a place of care is understandable. However, it's crucial to approach delicate family dynamics with sensitivity and support, recognizing the complexity of the situation without imposing solutions. Communication and understanding are key in navigating such challenging relationships, and it's important to continue being there for your sister while respecting her autonomy and making decisions about her marriage. Am I the antagonist for refusing to let my estranged sister and her husband stay in mine and my husband's vacation home? Before we got married, my husband used to live in a nice little house that he kept and added my name to the deed, and we now use as a vacation home. We only use it 2 or 3 times a year, so we do sometimes let friends or family stay there for a few days or a week if they want to get away. This has never been a problem for us. But now we were asked to let my estranged sister and her husband stay, and I said no. My husband is in 100% agreement with me on that. My sister and her husband are currently homeless. They were renting for several years and in the same place for a long time, but got kicked out due to issues with their landlord, and they are in desperate need of a place to stay until they can find a more permanent place. Background: my sister and I were very close growing up. My best friend for my entire childhood was a guy. The guy who is now married to my sister, for those who can probably guess. I always had a huge crush on him, and honestly, I was in love with him by the time we were 20. My sister also had a guy she liked, but not super well. When I was 20, we were all at a party, and the guy my sister liked flirted with me. My sister was upset even though I didn't flirt back and told him I wasn't interested. She told me we don't do anything with guys the other liked. I agreed. I never would have done that to her anyway. A year or 2 later, my relationship with my best friend changed. He was flirting with me, and I was flirting back. He was more physically affectionate, and he started kissing me, and it felt like we were slowly becoming more than best friends. Things were progressing like that, and then suddenly I discovered that he and my sister were a couple and had started sleeping together. He told me he wanted to keep his options open, and my sister told me she really liked him and she wanted me to understand. I called her a hypocrite for doing that when she turned on me for the guy she had liked flirting with me after I turned him down, and then promising and making me promise we'd never do this to each other. She told me it was different. I told her I would never trust her or look at her the same way again. They told me I didn't own him. I told him he was messed up for leading me on when he wanted my sister. Our family took my side afterward, especially my other 2 siblings. I haven't seen or spoken to my sister or her husband since. It's our parents who helped set up the request for a place to stay, and they were disappointed when I said no. My other sister and brother are firmly on my side, and they were disgusted my sister and her husband would even dare ask me. My sister said at least I get to live out my dream because I'm married with kids and she can't have any. And the least I can do is put aside petty childhood drama to help them not be homeless. My sister and her husband called me a derogatory term for refusing, and even my parents said I was going too far with the estrangement by refusing to help. Am I the antagonist? It sounds like you have a complex history with your sister and your best friend turned brother-in-law, and the feelings of betrayal and hurt are still very fresh for you. It's understandable that you'd feel uncomfortable having them stay in your vacation home given the past. It's important for you to prioritize your own emotional well-being and boundaries in this situation, even if others may not fully understand the dynamics at play. Am I the antagonist for ruining our friend group's vacation and not apologizing 2 years later? I, then 22 years old, my then boyfriend Matt, 24 years old, and a group of friends and acquaintances, mostly couples between the ages of 22-26, 11 people in total, were on a trip. The two most important people were Nellie, 22 years old, and Bella, 24 years old. The first hotel was great. Before heading to the second hotel, some people wanted to visit a museum, but Matt and I decided to spend time at the beach instead. Nellie informed us that we couldn't check in early or use the hotel parking without her, so we used a public space 5 minutes away from the hotel. After some time, she called to let us know they were almost there and asked us to wait at the car so they could show us to the hotel parking. However, after half an hour, no one had arrived, and no one was responding to texts or calls. Matt went to the hotel to see if they were there. When he returned, he explained that there was an issue with the booking and they didn't have enough rooms, so someone would have to stay at another hotel. It was decided that Bella and I would stay at the other hotel, and Nellie was waiting to show me to the other hotel. It's important to note that I am currently being tested for autism. One of my challenges is difficulty with spontaneous changes, and people were aware of this before the autism test. Nellie tried to convince me that the other hotel was nicer because she sensed my negativity. I tried to explain that I didn't care, and questioned why it had to be me when they knew I struggled the most with adapting. Bella was already waiting and immediately comforted me, knowing that this situation could be difficult for me. She also mentioned that the decision was made for me because I wasn't there to argue, which heightened my anxiety. We talked while getting ready, which made us a bit late for our group dinner. I didn't want to interact with the others because I felt betrayed and feared I would ruin the night by complaining. However, I overheard Nellie and some others discussing how ungrateful and dramatic I was. This triggered a panic attack in me, starting with a racing heartbeat, then hyperventilating, and eventually crying out of anger, panic, and shame. Matt asked the others to go ahead, and it took what felt like an eternity to calm me down. I had feared this would happen, and now that it did, my friends were mocking me. The rest of the vacation was strained, and the group dynamic never fully recovered. The incident was avoided as a topic of conversation. I thought Nellie and I had moved past it, but she recently mentioned that I never apologized. This caught me off guard as the memory is still triggering for me, and her expectation of an apology for having a panic attack made me angry. I asked her to leave, and I've been questioning whether I owe her an apology ever since. I don't believe I do, but she clearly thinks otherwise. Was I in the wrong back then, and am I wrong now for not apologizing? It sounds like you were put in a tough spot with the sudden changes during the trip, and it's understandable that it would be challenging for you, especially with your current situation. Your feelings and reactions are valid, and it's important for your friends to be understanding and supportive, rather than making you feel judged or mocked for struggling with the situation. It might be helpful to have an open and honest conversation with Nellie about how you felt during that time and express your perspective, to see if you both can find a resolution that feels right for both of you. Would I be the asshole if I don't let my mother move in with me unless I have control of her finances? I, 57-year-old male, have been married to my wife, 36-year-old female, for 2 years. Up until a month ago, my mother, 72 years old, has lived in her own home across the country. She and I have not had much of a relationship most of my life since she moved across the country when I was 14. We talk on the phone about once a month, but never saw each other. She's been a heavy drinker most of her life. I have told her that I don't like her calling me when she is drunk, but she does it anyway. About a year ago, she called me drunk and asked me if she could move in with me if she decided to move back to my state. I told her I would not discuss this with her when she is drunk, and we never spoke about it again. This past November, she mentioned to me again that she wanted to sell her home and move out here. I warned her not to do it. I live in California, and she is in Louisiana, which is much cheaper to live in. I suggested that my brother, single and rents a room, move out there. He can help her out and keep her house when she passes. They both said they didn't want to do that, and she was still dead set on moving to California. She said she was going to move back in March. One day in March, I get a call from her. She is on her way to California and is actually already in Arizona. I asked about her house, and she said she left it in the care of someone she met and they will pay the mortgage, fix it up, and then sell it for her. She would get $20K out of it. She moved in with her sister who lives out here. I found out she has no ID. She closed her bank account in Louisiana and has no way to cash her retirement checks. Now she is calling me asking if she can stay with me because she and her sister are not getting along. I am so irritated at this point because I told her months ago it was not a good idea for her to come back here. I told her that if she was going to stay with me and my wife, I would file to get control of her finances. My intention is to find her an apartment close by since I don't want her drunk in my house all the time. My wife and I are trying to have kids of our own. My wife has been amazing about all of this. She supports my stance and is willing to help me deal with my mother, Would I be the if I stood by this ultimatum? It sounds like you've been handling a challenging situation with your mother very thoughtfully. Setting boundaries is important, especially when considering starting a family of your own. Your priority should be the well-being of your household, so standing by your ultimatum seems like a reasonable decision. Would I be the asshole for considering suing my family for negligence of my puppy? I am in the wrong for considering suing my parents, but it is valid for me to be upset that they caused this issue, even if it was accidental. Would I be the asshole if I asked my parents to reimburse me for their negligence? I, a 20-year-old female college student, got a puppy earlier this year. She is the love of my life and means everything to me. I decided to move half of my dorm before finals week to provide a quiet environment for my puppy, as our school enforces strict quiet hours during finals week, and she tends to whine. I believed everything would be fine when I left her with my parents for 3 days, Tuesday, Thursday. All they needed to do was feed her, take her out to potty, and show her some love. It should have been simple. However, while I was home, my dad fed her, and unfortunately, he overfed her. She ended up needing to be seen at the clinic. I gave my family very specific instructions and even prepped all her meals to prevent any further issues with her feedings. Then, I left. The next day, my sister FaceTimed me saying that my dog was throwing up a piece of a toy. She is not allowed to play with that toy without supervision, so this concerned me, and I asked them to take her to the clinic. My mom refused. My sister found all the pieces of the toy, so I decided not to drive home that night. The next morning, my dad texted me that the dog was sick, and he was taking her to the vet. The clinic did an ultrasound and found a foreign body, which was the toy she ate that had caused an obstruction. My mom called to blame me and claimed that the dog was already sick. This situation has now cost me $6,000, and my parents are not taking responsibility for their negligence. For further context, I attend school over 4 hours away, so I cannot make the drive home frequently. We have finals this week, and most students are advised to take their emotional support animals, home. I left on Monday and plan to return on Thursday, leaving my puppy in their care for 3 days in exchange for payment. Would I be the asshole if I sued my parents for the cost of my pup's treatment? While it's understandable to feel upset about the situation, suing your parents may strain your relationship further and escalate things unnecessarily. It might be more productive to calmly discuss the issue with them and come to a resolution that prioritizes your puppy's well-being and future care. Am I the antagonist for canceling a trip gifted to me by my boss? My job is incredibly stressful. My boss is the reason why. I do all of his work for him. He doesn't show up to work for a whole day in a given week and expects me to run his business for him. I've been doing this for 7 years now. The list of what I do for him is too long to list for Reddit, but it has been explained to me that I do the work of 5 different people. The pay is okay. I'm lucky to have my husband's income because I wouldn't be able to survive on mine alone. I've wanted to quit this job so many times, but I can't because my boss wants to retire and sell the business to myself and 2 other people, one of them being my husband. He works here too. The other person, let's call him Nathan, is someone we do not like and do not get along with. He only cares that he makes as much money as possible without doing any work. My boss emphasized he needed me on board because I'm essential to the running of the business and that I didn't have to worry about sharing with Nathan because ownership would be split evenly, so my husband and I would have majority ownership to make decisions. Since the potential of owning the business is something we want, we've spent weekends and evenings coming up with business acquisition plans, and we've been doing the legwork to make this sale happen. So, my boss took off on vacation for the past 5 months. I ran the office while he was away. When he came back, he decided that for my efforts, he would give me and my husband a trip. He wanted us to drive 6 hours to a location on Friday, stay the weekend, drive back on Monday, and be back to work on Tuesday. Not much time off, and we'd pay for gas and food, but it was a nice gesture, so we took it and thanked him for it. Then we had an office meeting. He mentioned he's now decided myself and my husband are to be one entity for the purposes of ownership so that we didn't have the option to overrule the authority of Nathan. So essentially, we would own 25% each and Nathan would own 50%. It was a smack in the face. Not only have I worked my veritable butt off for him so he can go on 5-month-long vacations and not worry, but my husband has been picking up the slack of Nathan's ineptitude to keep everything running as well. We've been the ones coming forward with all of the business sale ideas, and we've been the ones really trying to make this work. Because of that, my husband and I started to feel like the time off he was giving us was more of a bribe than anything else to keep us around and accept whatever trash deal he put forward. We thought about it and came to the decision that we didn't want to go anymore. It felt dirty. I canceled the reservation for the place he was sending us and broke down in tears. This was going to be the first time off I've had in years, and I didn't realize how much it meant to me until now. My boss is angry and avoiding us lately because we gave his gift back, and now I'm second-guessing our decisions. It could have worked out. Maybe we made a mistake. It sounds like you have been shouldering a heavy load at work and have gone above and beyond for your boss, so it's understandable that you feel frustrated by the sudden change in ownership dynamics. It's important to prioritize your well-being and not feel pressured into accepting a deal that doesn't sit right with you, even if it means missing out on a much-needed break. Trust your instincts, and remember that your hard work deserves recognition and fair treatment. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.